Let me ask you something honestly. How long have you been searching? Searching for your purpose, your calling, that one thing that is supposed to make your life feel real and worth living. You have read the books, watched the videos, made the lists, tried different paths, and still, something feels missing. But what if I told you that the searching itself is the problem? What if the harder you chase your purpose, the further it runs from you? There was a young man named Marco, 24 years old, smart, hardworking, the kind of person who genuinely wanted to do something meaningful with his life. Every morning he woke up with the same heavy question sitting on his chest. What am I supposed to do with my life? He tried everything. He studied business for a year and felt nothing. He tried photography. He started a journal. He took online courses on design, writing, coding. He made vision boards. He wrote 5-year plans. But every path he tried felt like wearing someone else's shoes. Nothing fit. Nothing clicked. And the worst part was this. The more desperately he searched, the more empty he felt. Like a man dying of thirst, drinking salt water, wondering why he is still thirsty. He was exhausted, not from working hard, from searching too hard. One evening, Marco sat alone in his room, phone in hand, scrolling through the lives of people who seemed to have it all figured out. This person found their passion at 22. That person built a business from nothing. Everyone around him seemed to know exactly where they were going. And there he was, stuck, confused, falling behind. He opened a new notebook and wrote at the top of the page, "What is my purpose?" And then he sat there, pen in hand, for 20 minutes. Nothing came. He closed the notebook, went to bed, and stared at the ceiling until 2 in the morning. This is what the search for purpose actually feels like for most people. Not inspiring, not exciting, just loud, just heavy, just exhausting. The next morning, Marco visited his uncle, an old man who had lived simply his whole life. A small house, a garden, a few books, nothing impressive by the world's measure. Marco told him everything, the confusion, the failed attempts, the feeling of being lost while everyone else seemed found. His uncle listened without interrupting. Then he pointed to the garden outside the window. "Do you see that plant in the corner?" Marco looked. A small green plant growing quietly near the wall. "I did not force it to grow," his uncle said. "I did not pull the stem upward to make it taller. I did not argue with its roots about which direction to go. I simply removed the stones, gave it water, left it alone, and it found its own way to the light." Marco was quiet. His uncle continued, "You have been pulling at your own stem, son, demanding that you grow in a direction you have not yet discovered. And every time you pull, you damage the very roots that would have taken you there naturally." That night, Marco did something he had not done in years. Nothing. He sat in silence. No phone, no notebook, no questions. He just sat and let the quiet be quiet. And something strange happened. Without searching, a memory surfaced, a small one. Him at 15, staying up late to help a friend understand a difficult concept and feeling genuinely alive while doing it. Not because it was his purpose, just because it felt natural, easy, real. Then another memory. Him at 18, writing letters to his younger cousin going through a hard time. Hours spent on those letters. No one asked him to. No one paid him. He just did it because something inside him needed to. He had not been searching in the wrong places. He had been searching in the wrong way. Purpose was never a destination. It was never a grand title or a perfect career waiting at the end of a long corridor. It was the quiet thing he kept returning to, even when no one was watching, even when there was no reward. Here is what nobody tells you about purpose. It does not arrive when you call it. It arrives when you stop making noise. The search creates mental static, so loud that you cannot hear the quiet signal that was always there. Your curiosity, your natural pull, the things that make time disappear when you do them. Purpose is not found in grand gestures or 5-year plans. It lives in the quality of attention you bring to small, ordinary moments. The person who sweeps the floor with full attention. The person who listens to a friend without checking their phone. The person who does the small thing in front of them, completely, without waiting for a bigger thing to arrive. That is where mastery begins, not in the search, in the presence. When you stop pulling at your own stem, when you remove the stones of comparison and the noise of constant seeking, something natural begins to grow. Your life starts to organize itself around what you actually are, not what you are trying to become. Marco never found his purpose that night, but he stopped losing it. He began tutoring students in his neighborhood, not as a career plan, not as a 5-year strategy, just because it felt like the most natural thing he had ever done. 6 months later, someone called it his purpose. He smiled, because he knew it was never missing. He had just been too loud to hear it. Stop asking what your life is for. Start listening to what your life is already doing. The path does not begin when you find your purpose. The path begins the moment you stop running away from where you already stand. If this story touched something in you, like, share, and subscribe. New stories every week for the ones still searching.